Encounter with God. Yo, what's up? It's someone that's no one, and welcome back to today's report. Today's report was sent in by an anonymous user where they took 200 micrograms of LSD with some cannabis. And here's the full report details. Alright, here we got a pretty cool acid report. This gets pretty detailed and descriptive as this user talks about his second time combining acid with cannabis and just how much more trippy it gets when he does the combination. It gets trippy fast, but I would say it turns out very well balanced and profound in ways. There's up and down moments, moments of bliss, laughter, wonder, then there's moments of fear, annoyance, and tough lessons. A very well-rounded acid trip that will let speak for itself. I'm sure many can relate to this one. It's a banger, kinda long, so I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Without further ado, let's dive right into this. I combined LSD and cannabis once before. I was outside with my closest friend, and we had about 300 micrograms each of LSD, and a decent sized joint to mix. This was the most acid I'd ever taken, and mixing cannabis was probably not a good idea. Long story short, I was having insane mind bending visuals, extreme paranoia, and associated thoughts. During one point of the trip, me and my friend were walking under a large canopy of trees and leaves at night, while smoking this joint. We saw a car entering our neighborhood, and being as high and paranoid as we were, we assumed it was the police. So we went walking deeper into the darkness. Meanwhile, the acid and cannabis was hitting me and him all at once. I remember thinking how important it was to keep sanity as much as I could, because I didn't want to lose my mind outside at night. While we were walking and just talking, I remember I looked at his face in the darkness, and I could see a faint white outline of only his face that gave me chills. It almost reminded me of a Grim Reaper. We ended up finding a ditch where we could sit and finish the joint. And I don't remember this part clearly, but my friend told me afterwards that he seen the stars in the sky forming all kinds of geometric patterns. I think that I didn't notice this because I was so paranoid and anxious to get back into his room. At this time, it was about 2:20 a.m., and we were heading back to his house. While walking over there, we were just talking, but the visuals were insane. The orange light posts were emitting the most vivid light, and when I looked at my friend's face, it was completely warped. I was extremely focused on making it home before we saw any cars. As we were getting onto a street, I could see car lights approaching. I was thinking, fuck, even though they most likely don't care about what I'm doing. But when the car comes around the corner, it's a police cruiser. My heart jumped up to my neck, and I just looked forward while my friend was behind me. For some reason, the police didn't stop, and I had the biggest relief I'd ever felt in my whole life. As the car passed behind us, I looked back to my friend, and he had the biggest smile on his face. I started laughing hysterically at the fact that this police didn't stop us. I just felt so relieved, because this would have been the worst night of my life if the police officer saw us high off our asses on LSD, and who knows what he would have said or done. So I was glad that nothing happened. We finally made it into the room, and this is when the dissociation really started. I laid in bed thinking about who I was and where I was, and why that cop car didn't stop us at the sight of us that late at night. I would have auditory hallucinations where I would hear footsteps outside the door that weren't really there. I remember I tried to play some Black Ops Zombies, but I couldn't because my mind was so overloaded. I would say that this was the first time I was having thought loops. I would look at my friend, and his head was stretching and warping like crazy. I would say things like, dude, we really did it this time. We fucked up the worlds. I'm so fucked, man. Meanwhile, he was in the same state of mind as me, or maybe worse. I remember I was kind of starting to snap out of it a little, and I would try to assure him that we're gonna be fine and no one will come here, because he was hearing sounds too. Anyway, my first cannabis LSD trip was something to remember. but the second one is the one I really want to talk about. I would always think about my first trip, think about why I was so paranoid, and how I could combine the two without being so fucked up in my head. Well, one day, I decided I would try the combination again. It was a rainy day. In fact, it had been raining the whole week, and I was expecting to see cool visuals from the rain outside. I had just installed color shifting lights behind my TV, and I got a huge sublime tapestry that I had placed right above my bed. This turned out to be a huge mistake. Anyway, I was playing some Modern Warfare 2019 with my friends, and I took the tab around 10:20 p.m. It was marketed at 200 micrograms, but who knows? I took a shower as soon as I ate it, and then I went to make a chamomile tea. When I came back, I sat down to play the game, and I was starting to feel slightly different. I was starting to get that grin on my face that I get when I'm coming up on acid. I just have a slight grin and laugh at silly things. We were all just playing Search and Destroy, and I was starting to play worse and worse as the acid progressed. Before I took it, I would get 14-19 kills a match, and after, I was getting 5 to 7 kills. And my sweaty try-hard friends screaming in my ears through the headset was not the most enjoyable time. I don't know if it was the LSD or what, but I felt like my friends were being more obnoxious than usual, making stupid noises and saying dumb gay shit. I just wanted to play the game and have fun. It was around 11:30 and I started to get really irritated at the game because it was becoming increasingly harder, and my friends increasingly annoying. So I decided I would say goodnight and just watch some TV before I roll joint. I put on Cowboy Bebop, arguably one of the best animes of all time. And I'm not all big into anime, but this one is great. I recommend it. Anyway, I put on this show and took out my weed and began breaking it apart. At first, I wanted to roll these hemp ones that I had just gotten, but I thought to myself, I never rolled a blunt before. Am I going to do this now? So I put it away and grabbed some papers. As I was crushing the weed with my fingers, it was kind of morphing, like it was alive, just slightly moving around. I was sitting on the floor in my closet for fear of my parents smelling the weed, but they were dead asleep, so I got up and went to my desk. I turned off the TV because of the sound of gunshots and fast-paced music made it hard for me to concentrate on the art of joint rolling, which required patience and concentration. I ended up rolling a pretty decent-sized joint of some weed that I think was amazing, because I'd never seen anything like it. It was almost white in color and was extremely sticky. It was about 12 at this time, so I turned my TV back on and snuck out my window to go smoke. It was raining when I stepped outside, and I thought this was cool. I put my hoodie on and lit up the joint. The flame had this interesting phasing effect, like it was dancing. I thought that was mesmerizing. I started smoking and would just look at my surroundings, and I felt so peaceful. It was so quiet, but the sound of the rain was there, and it made me feel amazing. Side note, I don't know if this is just me, but whenever I take acid, I feel so much more comfortable when I'm outside versus when I'm inside. When I'm inside, I almost feel claustrophobic. Anyway, I'm smoking, just kind of laying on the garage door, just admiring the pretty lights and the sound of the rain. And I didn't even feel the smoke in my throat or my lungs anymore. I was coming towards the end of my joint, and I felt just amazing. So tranquil is the best way to describe it. I kind of started pacing around my driveway so I could feel the rain. And then I thought to myself, I probably look so dumb right now, and I started laughing. I put out the small roach, threw it away, and made my way back inside my room. This is where it goes bad. First, when I step inside, my slides are dirty and wet, so I bring in a bunch of leaves on the floor. This makes me have a full-on panic attack to clean my floor, because I thought my parents would see it. I grabbed a towel and just started sliding it across the floor, trying to gather all the leaves and bunch the towel up afterwards. This was very ineffective, further frustrating me. Then a thought went through my head. I felt like I was trying to get rid of a body in a way. and the leaves were like evidence, and the towel was the body. I threw the towel in my closet, in the dirty clothes basket, and this kind of helps me gather myself, but there were still leaves all over the floor, so I just picked them up one by one. After that, I laid in bed and attempted to play Modern Warfare, but I just wasn't feeling it. Too much going on at once, so I put on regular show. The title card was pretty cool to look at. The purple void and the letters were all moving around, and slightly changing hues. This was the episode with the evil hot dogs. I remember seeing the characters and being able to relate each one to parts of my life. Like, I would see Pops and think of my younger brother's child, like wonder and innocence. I would see Benson and think about my parents, and how he tries to support his friends and please them. I would see Skips and think about how I can be bland and serious sometimes. Anyways, as the show progressed, I started to get this strange feeling that someone was watching me, a higher power. It was extremely overwhelming, to the point where I stopped looking at the TV. I went on my phone to look at myself, and I looked like shit. I took a picture, and when I look at it, my tapestry of sublime is behind me. And right above my shoulder is Satan, a little devil. This freaked me the fuck out, and I felt like I was being watched and that God was punishing me for doing so much drugs. I tried to think to myself, just enjoy the trip and watch TV, do whatever. So I flipped back on to Cowboy Bebop, and the title of the episode was called Ballad of Fallen Angels. I somehow linked this to myself, and I started to think about how these substances should affect my life, and if I'm addicted, and why it's hard not to take them. I then went on to the next episode, and the title was called Sympathy for the Devil. I just stopped for a second to think about how is this possible, and I was thinking about how this is God trying to talk to me. I related the title Sympathy for the Devil as the substances being the devil, and I'm too sympathetic to let go of them. Seeing this sent me into a different space. I tried to go back to regular show to watch more, and I swear the title of the episode was titled Meet Your Maker. I was almost angry with God, but I knew that I was wrong. I felt this huge feeling of impending doom, like he was going to come take my life, and my body felt horrible. I felt extremely uncomfortable in my own skin, and I really thought that I was going to die. I thought that maybe this wasn't LSD, and it was some other research chemical, and that I really fucked up this time. And God was letting me know right before I go see him. I turned off the TV, and my color changing lights were on. I just laid in bed and stared at the ceiling. It wasn't long before I started looking at the massive sublime sun right above my bed. And I thought to myself, why the fuck did I put this here? I immediately got out of bed and tore it down. I wrapped it up, and I was getting those hiding a dead body guilty feelings again. As I was about to throw it into my closet, I thought about what if it comes to life and tries to kill me? I thought that the poster was a portal for the devil in my room, so I decided that I wouldn't let it leave my sight. In fact, I wrapped it up and I laid in bed with it, hugging it tightly as if it were going to try to kill me if I let go. It was about 1:30 at this time, and I started to relax. I moved the black thing of tapestry from my bed to the floor where I could keep an eye on it, and then I started watching music videos. I was still so blasted out of my mind that the music was playing, but I wasn't really listening to it. I was watching the video though. I put on Marvin Gaye What's Going On Live, and I could see what I can describe as seeing double. Like, I would look at his head, and then there would be an outline around his head of his head, and then another outline. And other times, I would look at his face, and it looked like a reflection on a mirror that was reflecting the top side of his face onto the bottom. It was very strange. I was also having vivid auditory hallucinations. The best way I can describe it is, imagine the sound that a spaceship would make while drifting through space. It was a very soft and loud sound at the same time, almost like a really loud blowing air. I liked it because it felt like my whole room was drifting through space. and even I said to myself, I'm in space. And it made it even more apparent to me that I was in space. Plus, I changed the lights in my room to be blue, which made me feel like I was in the driver's seat of a rocket ship for some reason. After watching a few music videos, I put on a nature documentary that blew my mind completely. It was about the Arctic tundra. The bleached whiteness of the landscapes they were showing me were completely alien to me, and the sunrise in one scene became merged with these white snow-covered hills, and it was beautiful. Meanwhile, I grabbed a Bible off my desk and opened up to the first book of Genesis. As I was reading a part where it talks about water, a scene on the TV shows a bunch of penguins diving into the water, and I thought that was amazing, and I started laughing hysterically. I watched a different episode about forest, and it was talking about how many forests are left and how some are dying, and it made me genuinely upset and disgusted with the human race. There was another scene I would see trees, and they would all be growing branches and green leaves as the scene progressed. When I watched this same scene again the next day, I didn't see any branches or leaves growing in the trees. I hallucinated it completely. After watching TV for a while, I was beginning to come down, so I started playing some Modern Warfare. And it's always fun playing COD late at night because there's always interesting people to talk to, because they're either on drugs or drunk. So I played and felt like I was doing amazing, and I was. My aim and recoil control was unhuman almost. I felt like I was cheating, and so did the people on the other team. One even accused me of using Adderall. I was dropping entire teams on search and destroy by myself, because the rest of my team had died already. I could consistently dust a team of 6 by myself. It was insane. As I played more and more, I got into a match with a drunk guy whose gamertag was God, which I thought was ironic, but he was pretty funny and talking to himself a bunch when there was no one to talk to. Another weird thing I noticed while playing is that I would almost get flashes of visual distortion, and then my vision would be normal. I had never experienced that before. After a while, I got off and went to bed. I was already coming down at this point, but I couldn't sleep, as one does when they're on acid, so I just lay there with sounds on my phone to help me relax. They made me feel like I was in a dreamlike state, and closing my eyes felt really good, like I was sleeping, but I wasn't. I ended up going to sleep at 8 p.m. and waking up a few hours later feeling like shit. This trip was different from any other trip because I never felt the presence of a higher being, which I think is God so strongly, and I never feared for my life before while on this drug. Moral of the story is that these substances are no joke at all, and if you're not mentally prepared, you will get fucked up.